A temple is never just stone. It is never merely wood, clay, or brick, never just a structure built for shelter, nor a monument erected for vanity. A temple is something else entirely. It is a key. Its shape is not random. Its lines are never accidental. Every corner, every column, every archway is carved from intention, etched from meaning. The ancients knew what we have forgotten, that form speaks, not in words, but in resonance. Beneath the visible temple, the temple we photograph, visit, and admire, exists another temple, one made not of material, but of geometry. A hidden pattern, an invisible architecture carefully arranged to resonate with something deeper. It aligns with stars, it aligns with seasons, it aligns with rhythms hidden within the earth itself. Ancient priests were not only architects, they were geometers, astrologers, magicians who understood the language of shape. They knew that certain forms held power, not metaphorically, but literally. Because geometry is not only math, it is the language of reality itself, the language creation uses to speak silently. Why did Egyptians build pyramids? Why did Greeks shape temples with such perfect symmetry? Why did Druids place stones in perfect circles without visible measurement, yet with perfect accuracy? Because they understood what we do not, that temples are not buildings, they are instruments. They gather energy. They focus consciousness. They open doors we no longer see, let alone understand. When you step inside an ancient temple, you're stepping into something living, a form created to interact with the unseen currents flowing beneath and around us. They were shaped not just for worship, but for awakening, to lift the human spirit, to awaken sleeping parts of the soul, to remind humanity of something forgotten. Why else would temples across the world, built by cultures who never spoke, never met, share the same shapes? The pyramid, the circle, the axis mundi, the labyrinth. Why do these forms reappear again and again, in different lands, in different eras, yet always with the same hidden purpose? Because the temple's true shape exists beneath the stone. Its real geometry exists in the space between atoms, in the subtle frequencies that shape reality itself. Temples were built to echo universal truths. Their forms were carefully chosen because each shape resonated with the cosmos in a unique way. Each temple was a deliberate act, a ritual of creation. Their architects didn't just build, they invoked, they conjured, they harmonized. Because a temple is not a passive structure, it is active. It breathes, it vibrates, it listens and responds. It is a machine of stone and symmetry, a device shaped from sacred geometry, designed to transform not only the space it occupies, but the people who enter it. The ancients knew that to enter a temple was to enter a different frequency, a frequency carefully shaped, precisely measured, perfectly balanced to alter consciousness itself. When you stand beneath the soaring arches of a cathedral, when you walk the spiral of a labyrinth, when you sit in the silent heart of a pyramid, you sense it. Even now, thousands of years later, the shape still speaks. But it speaks softly, waiting for the listener who remembers that beneath every stone, every carving, every shadow cast by the sun, there is something else. The temple's true shape was never about aesthetics, never about vanity. It was always about resonance, about aligning humanity with something greater than itself, about creating sacred space in a chaotic world, about remembering that beneath all forms, there is one truth. Geometry is sacred because it is the language of the unseen. And temples, built from that language, were not meant only to worship gods, but to reveal them within ourselves. Every temple points somewhere. Not randomly, not coincidentally, but intentionally, like a compass, drawn carefully towards something beyond stone, beyond earth, beyond mere sight. Temples were never simply placed on convenient ground. They were deliberately aligned, carefully oriented, as if listening closely to the sky itself, responding to whispers from the cosmos. The ancients knew what we have long forgotten, that certain points on earth hold deeper significance. These places where invisible lines of power intersect, where the boundaries between worlds grow thin, were the sacred sites chosen for temples. Here, architects of old built along an invisible spine, the axis mundi, the world's central pillar. But this axis was not merely symbolic, it was a real, measurable connection between heaven and earth, sky and soil, divine and human. From the temples of Egypt to the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, from the pyramids of the Maya to the pagodas of ancient China, every sacred building was precisely placed to align with celestial bodies, stars, planets, constellations. They were not merely observing the heavens, they were engaging with them. In Egypt, the pyramids of Giza mirror the belt of Orion, perfectly reflecting stars and stone, creating a bridge, a passageway that transcends earthly boundaries. In Angkor Wat, Cambodia, the sprawling temple aligns with equinoxes and solstices, reflecting cosmic cycles, echoing the rhythmic heartbeat of the universe itself. At Stonehenge, stones placed millennia ago track the precise movements of the sun and moon, guiding humanity not just through seasons, but through layers of understanding, connecting earthly life to celestial order. These were not primitive calendars. They were sophisticated instruments of cosmic alignment devices, meant to synchronize humanity with the greater harmony of existence. Why did ancient civilizations separated by oceans and centuries, without contact, without communication, so consistently choose to align their sacred places with the same celestial principles? Because they knew the truth hidden in geometry, that alignment is resonance. That resonance creates coherence, and coherence awakens consciousness. A temple, when aligned correctly, is more than stone. It is a conductor, a cosmic antenna, attuned not just to physical stars, but to the invisible currents of reality itself. When the first rays of the sun touch the altar precisely on the solstice, it is not merely symbolic. It activates something within the temple and within those who witness it. Energy flows, vibration rises, consciousness shifts. The axis mundi becomes visible not with eyes, but through subtle awareness. The ancients understood that the human being is itself a reflection of this axis, the spine aligned with the cosmos, the crown reaching upward, feet rooted deeply into earth. Temples were built to mirror this internal alignment externally, to remind humanity of its intrinsic connection to something greater, to the stars, to the cycles of time, to the hidden rhythm beneath reality itself. Entering a temple aligned with the heavens is stepping onto a bridge between worlds. It is entering a place where earthly concerns fade, and the soul remembers what it is to stand between worlds, grounded yet reaching, finite yet infinite, mortal yet connected to eternity. This is the true meaning of the axis mundi. It is not just a physical alignment. It is an invitation, a subtle call from the temple itself, asking humanity to remember its cosmic heritage, to return to harmony, to realign with the sacred order from which it came. And perhaps this is why today, when we stand inside these ancient temples, we feel something powerful, something familiar yet forgotten, a subtle stirring deep within. Because the temples still speak in the language of alignment. They still resonate with celestial frequencies. They still silently point upward, waiting patiently, for us to remember the connection that was never truly lost. This is why temples were built along the axis mundi, not just to worship gods above, but to awaken the divine within humanity itself. They remind us of what we have always known, yet still struggle to remember: that we are beings of two worlds, standing eternally on the sacred bridge between heaven and earth. There is one shape that appears again and again, rising from deserts, jungles, and plains built by cultures who never touched, never spoke, never shared secrets. Yet the shape is always the same. The pyramid, stone upon stone, ascending steadily upward, pointing like a silent arrow toward the heavens. Why did humanity, separated by oceans and time, continually return to this form? Why did Egypt, Mexico, China, India, even cultures lost in time, choose the pyramid as the shape to house their most sacred truths? Because the pyramid is more than architecture. It is ascension itself made visible. It is the perfect metaphor for humanity's eternal yearning to rise above the earth, to transcend matter, to bridge the finite and the infinite. But pyramids are not simply symbolic, they are instruments. Step inside a pyramid and you enter more than stone. You enter a precisely tuned chamber, built not to impress, but to awaken. It concentrates energy. It gathers cosmic frequencies, resonates them, and directs them inward into the very heart of the structure and into the soul of anyone who enters. The Egyptians knew this. Their pyramids were not tombs, but chambers of transformation, not built to bury kings, but to raise their spirits to realms beyond death. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, hidden chambers and subtle passages align with stars and planets: Orion, Sirius, the celestial north. Every angle is deliberate, every stone placed carefully, as if following instructions spoken from beyond the visible. They understood geometry not merely as math, but as magic. The pyramid focuses energy inward like a lens, like a crystal. It draws cosmic vibrations down, amplifying subtle frequencies, creating a field in which the human mind can experience altered states of consciousness. Not through belief, not through prayer alone, but through resonance. The pyramid is a portal, an interface between matter and spirit, between earth and cosmos. Thousands of miles away, in the jungles of Central America, the Maya built pyramids with the same precision, the same hidden alignments. At Chichen Itza, the pyramid of Kukulkan is more than a temple. It is a calendar, a cosmic map, a living machine of stone. On equinoxes, the sun casts shadows down its sides, creating the illusion of a serpent descending, a serpent of wisdom, awakening from stone. But why serpents? Why dragons and feathered snakes across cultures? Because the serpent is the ancient symbol of Kundalini, of life force rising, of energy awakening along the human spine. The pyramid mirrors the human body, its base firm and rooted, connected to earth like our feet, like our foundation. Its sides rise evenly, symmetrically, just like the energy within us, rising upward through chakras, ascending toward the crown, toward enlightenment. And at the very peak, the apex, all sides converge into one single point: unity, singularity, awakening. The pyramid is humanity itself, standing between matter and spirit, grounded yet reaching upward, finite yet infinite, mortal yet divine. It reminds us that the path of enlightenment is not scattered or chaotic, but deliberate, a careful step-by-step ascent toward clarity. Ancient builders were not simply masons. They were spiritual engineers, carefully crafting structures to guide consciousness toward awakening. Pyramids were not built to impress. They were built to transform. Inside their stone chambers, mysteries occurred: initiations, rituals, passages from one state of consciousness to another. Today, we gaze upon pyramids as relics. We photograph them, measure them, study their stones. But they still wait. They still hold their purpose. Step inside, and you feel it, a subtle vibration, a silent call, a reminder. They were built for you, for us, for every soul that ever yearned to rise, to awaken, to ascend. The pyramid still stands, pointing toward the stars, whispering softly to all who enter, remember, this is your path. Stone by stone, step by step, rise, ascend, become. If the pyramid speaks of ascension, the circle whispers eternity. It has no corners, no edges, no beginning, no end. A circle is infinite, its meaning wrapped not in mystery, but in perfect clarity. Throughout history, humanity has returned to this shape again and again, as if drawn by an unseen force, an instinct, a memory of something timeless, something deeply familiar. From Stonehenge to Göbekli Tepe, from Native American medicine wheels to ancient Celtic stone circles, the circular temple reappears across continents, across eras, without explanation or obvious reason. But reason is not needed here, because the circle speaks for itself. A circle is the universe in miniature, the shape of cycles, the dance of stars and planets, the rhythm of seasons, tides, and human life itself. Within the circle, we remember our place in the greater whole. We feel connected, held within a perfect unity. Stonehenge stands silently in England, its giant stones arranged with impossible precision, perfectly aligned to track the sun and moon. Yet it is more than just an astronomical device. It is a temple, a sacred place where human consciousness meets cosmic rhythm. When the solstice sun rises above its stones, a subtle energy moves, a resonance that aligns the souls present with the eternal cycles of nature. Why a circle? Because a circle holds power. It amplifies and contains energy. Step into a circular temple, and you step into a place that gathers and concentrates life force, a place where subtle energies move freely, flowing, swirling, forming invisible currents of power. The ancients understood this. They knew that circles were more than symbols. They were instruments of transformation. In southern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe emerged from the ground after millennia hidden. Circular temples older than civilization itself, built at a time when humanity supposedly knew nothing of architecture or astronomy. Yet here they are, massive stones, arranged in perfect circles, carved with symbols that echo stars, animals, cosmic truths. Who built them, and why? The answer lies in the shape itself. The circle is timelessness, a doorway into eternity. At Göbekli Tepe, ancient humanity stepped into the circle to meet forces older than themselves, to experience unity with cosmos, to remember their origin and perhaps glimpse their destiny. The circle invites community. It dissolves hierarchy, places all who enter upon equal ground. Unlike pyramids, with their clear upward path, circles ask nothing but presence. They create a field, a subtle container where consciousness shifts effortlessly, where mind quiets, where soul expands. Circle temples are found everywhere. The Native Americans placed stone circles across vast plains, each aligned carefully with stars, each becoming a gathering point for ceremonies, healing, and communion with the invisible world. Ancient Druids gathered beneath circular groves, where trees echoed the same eternal shape, branches intertwining above, roots interwoven below, forming natural temples of perfect symmetry. Why has humanity always recognized circles as sacred? Because the human spirit itself is circular, moving through birth and death, through day and night, through joy and sorrow, through cycles of forgetting and remembering. The circular temple reflects this truth back to us, reminding us of our own eternal nature, of our connection to all that is. It asks us to step out of linear time, to leave behind past and future, and simply be fully present in the eternal now. Every circle temple ever built carries the same silent message. Here you are safe. Here you are whole. Here you are part of something infinite. Step into Stonehenge at dawn, and you feel it. Stand within Göbekli Tepe at twilight, and you sense it. Enter any sacred circle, anywhere in the world, and your soul recognizes the shape because it is the shape of your own consciousness, your own awareness, your own journey. It is the shape of unity, of oneness, of wholeness. The circle was chosen not because of convenience, not by chance, but because it resonates with eternity itself. It was chosen because the ancients understood that within its boundary, we remember our truth that life moves in cycles, that every end is a new beginning, that every moment holds infinity. In temples built as circles, humanity could meet the gods not as servants, but as equals, as part of the same infinite pattern. That is why temples were built in circles, to remind humanity that beneath all separation, beneath all illusion, there is unity. A circle has no end, neither do we. And in the temple built in this shape, we remember that our souls too are infinite. In the vast tapestry of sacred architecture, one shape stands apart in its quiet authority: the cube, firm, grounded, unyielding. While pyramids point heavenward and circles envelop eternity, the cube holds its ground. It is the shape of stability, of rooted purpose, of boundaries made sacred. Walk through the ancient streets of Ur, and you will find its ziggurats crowned by cubical shrines. Enter the courtyard of the Kaaba in Mecca, the very heart of an entire faith, and you stand before a perfect black cube, draped in silk, commanding awe. In the ancient temples of the Indus Valley, sanctuaries rose as cubes of stone, epitomizing order. In every corner of the world, cultures that never met chose this same form, a testament to its hidden potency. Why the cube? Why this unassuming block, so unsentimental compared to the drama of spires or domes? Because the cube speaks of the material world, the realm of form and function, yet at the same time evokes something more profound. It mirrors the very fabric of reality as the ancients perceived it. The four cardinal directions, the four elements: earth, water, air, fire, the four seasons, the solidity of earth meeting the immensity of sky. Each face of the cube stands for a cardinal truth, a direction of being past, future, north, south, as if the temple itself were the axis of the world. Within its walls, a seeker is reminded of boundaries not as prisons, but as the framework that holds life's dance in balance. Step inside a cubical sanctuary, and you find yourself enclosed yet held. The right angles ground you. The equal edges remind you of symmetry in all things. Here, there is no upward thrust toward the heavens, nor circular embrace of eternity here. There is the present moment, solid and sure. The cube is the matrix of manifestation. It is the womb of form. Within its boundaries, the formless takes shape. Here, the sacred geometry of life condenses into material reality. In medieval Europe, the church built baptisteries and chapels as cubes, spaces where water, symbol of birth and purification, met structure and balance. The early Christians saw in the cube a representation of earth made holy, a container for the divine spark within the baptizing waters. In Mesoamerica, the Mayan temples often begin with a square base, rising in tiers each level, a reminder that to ascend, one must first be firmly grounded. The cube at the summit often housed the sacred flame or the ceremonial chamber, a place of profound stillness. To build a cube is to say, here is the sanctuary. Here is the boundary between the mundane and the sacred. Here is the space in which transformation can take place, not by soaring, not by spiraling, but by stillness, by intention, by the turning of four corners into one balanced whole. The cube is also the philosopher's stone of geometry, the living heart of the vessel that holds the inner flame. Within it, chaos is tamed, energies are harmonized, and the spirit finds a container that respects both form and freedom. The Kaaba stands as the most powerful testament to this truth. Pilgrims circle its cubical core, a ritual that echoes the unity of creation within boundaries that shape the cosmos. In its shadow, the heart finds direction, the soul finds home. Ancient architects encoded this wisdom in stone. They knew the cube was not a limitation, but a liberation it offered the soul, a cell in which to concentrate, to distill, to be reborn. And so, through the ages, when humanity needed a reminder of stability, when the world trembled with chaos, when faith needed a voice, when the spirit longed for a resting place, the cube emerged. It reminds us that form is not simply shape, but a sacred container. It tells us that boundaries are not barriers, but the frames through which we perceive the infinite. To stand within a cube is to meet the world squarely, to acknowledge limits, to honor balance, and in that union of edges, faces, and corners, to discover the freedom that flows from perfect stability. A labyrinth is not a prison. It is a mirror, a spiral carved into earth, inviting the seeker to walk inward. Step by silent step, turn by ancient turn, you leave the world behind and enter the self. No walls block true vision, only stone guides the foot, and form guides the soul. The path is narrow, yet it opens wider than any plain. In the palaces of Knossos, in the Gothic cathedrals of Europe, in hidden groves of druids, labyrinths appear echoes of the inner journey. Why build a maze in stone and grass? Why shape the ground into this twisting coil? Because the labyrinth whispers a secret, that the journey matters more than the goal, that to reach the center, you must surrender certainty, embrace every turn, and trust the path even when it seems to vanish. There are no dead ends, only choices. Every corridor, every bend reflects a moment in the heart's own winding. When you reach the center, you find yourself, not as you were, but as you must become, humbled, quiet, aware. The ancients knew that truth is not given all at once. It is revealed step by deliberate step. And so they built labyrinths not to confuse, but to awaken, to still the mind, to steady the breath, to let the soul remember its own direction. In the silent coil of stone, time slows, thoughts fall away, only presence remains. Then, in the very center, a chamber of stillness, a prayer without words, and turning back, you emerge, and changed. Because the labyrinth is not just a shape, it is a journey made visible, a temple without walls, a path that is architecture, a ritual carved in earth. Walk it once, and you carry it within, every choice remembered, every turn known, until life itself becomes the labyrinth, and you the pilgrim in sacred form. There is a language older than words, writ not in ink, but in form, a grammar spoken by circles and triangles, by spirals and stars, a language the ancients carved into their temples so that the stones themselves might speak. We call it sacred geometry, yet it is no mere theory. It is the architecture of existence, the blueprint woven into petals and galaxies, the pattern that binds atom to cosmos, human heart to heartbeat of the stars. Look at the flower of life, a pattern of interlocking circles, each circle the same as the last, together forming a tapestry of unity. It appears on temple walls in Egypt, on medieval church windows, in Hindu yantras and Tibetan thankas. How did distant civilizations, disparate in time and place, come to use the same design? Because they heard its silent call, the resonance of harmony, and they shaped it in stone. The golden ratio, that slender proportion of 1.618, emerges in seashells, nautili, in the spiral arms of galaxies, in the Parthenon's facade, in the Great Pyramid's proportions. It is not a human invention. It is a cosmic song, sung by nature herself, and temples, in their perfect form, echo that song. See the Vesica Piscis, two circles overlapping the womb of creation, the birth of duality from unity. It frames icons of Christ. It guides Gothic arches. It forms the seed of every mandala. Every star, polygon, pentagram, hexagram, enneagram has a story, a power, a key to unlocking deeper realms. The pentagram, with its 5 points, speaks of the human form, 5 senses, 5 wounds of spirit, the harmony of body and soul. The hexagram, David's star, speaks of the union of above and below, the divine in the mortal in the divine. Temples are rich with these signs, layer upon layer of hidden meaning, each ratio and shape a vowel in the wordless song of creation. Pilgrims entered, unaware of the mathematics underfoot, yet their souls resonated with the harmony encoded in the very stones. No carpenter drew a line by chance. No mason laid a block without purpose. Each proportion was chosen to attune the temple's soul to the universal mind, to open a channel through which spirit might flow. In Gothic cathedrals, flying buttresses and pointed arches form unseen triangles that direct weight and attention upward. They are geometry in motion, lifting both stones and souls toward light. In Hindu temples, the stairways rise in fractal repetition, each tier a miniaturized mountain, each step a microcosm of cosmic ascent. In Mexican pyramids, the number of steps echoes the days of the solar calendar, turning stone into timepiece, calendar into altar. This architecture is not decoration, it is revelation. It reveals the hidden order beneath chaos, the pattern beneath flux, the song beneath silence. When you stand inside such a temple, you do not simply admire its beauty. You feel its geometry, a warmth in your chest, a quiet clarity in your mind, a sense of belonging to something far larger than yourself. Sacred geometry is the forgotten language that temples speak. It is the script of the soul, the code of the cosmos, the bridge between form and formless, finite and infinite. And though we may forget, the language still waits etched in stone, whispered by spirals, singing in every curve and corner, calling us home to the pattern we once knew, to the shape of the temple we carry within. They were never just monuments, not theaters of worship, nor mere gatherings of stone. They were machines, spiritual technology, crafted to shape consciousness as surely as gears shape motion. Think of a temple not as a building, but as an engine, one designed to convert the raw fuel of experience into refined states of being. The ancient architects were engineers of the soul. They understood hidden currents, ley lines pulsing beneath earth, star rhythms weaving overhead, vibrations humming through air and ether. by placing megaliths in columns along power grids, by carving chambers tuned to song and chant, by opening doorways aligned with sunrise and solstice. They built devices that collected, amplified, and redirected energy into unity, into stillness, into transcendence. Enter a temple at dawn, and you step into a living circuit. Your footsteps complete connections between stone and star. Your breath becomes a waveform that resonates with vaulted ceilings and hidden chambers. Chant a single syllable, and the sound will reverberate through corridors carved for resonance, each echo sharpening awareness, each vibration calibrating the mind. Walk the sacred axis, and you become a traveler through realms of perception. Each threshold crossed is a shift in state, each chamber a new frequency. The temples of Angkor were fed by canals, water as conductor, carrying life and power to every shrine. At Delphi, the Pythias chamber was designed to concentrate the breath of the earth, the vapors that carried visions and oracles. In Mesoamerica, temples doubled as acoustical chambers, sound whispers along stone walls, spirits of music and prayer bouncing into hidden niches. They were not primitive. They were pioneers combining geometry, astronomy, acoustics, hydrology, and ritual into integrated systems of transformation. These spiritual machines required no fuel but intention, no oil but devotion, no spark but the human spark itself. Yet the greatest engine of all was you, the priest, the pilgrim, the seeker whose presence activated the circuit, whose faith powered the device. Temples stood silent when empty until a single heartbeat entered, and then they awakened, humming with possibility, lighting pathways within. This is why temples were built in such shapes, not for aesthetics, but for function, to serve as amplifiers of the sacred, to generate states of being that could not be reached alone, to connect the individual soul with the cosmic mind. They were blueprints of transcendence, machines of becoming, reminders that reality is pliable, that form can shape the formless, that geometry can conduct the divine. And though most temples lie in ruin, their circuits broken, their machines silenced, their soul remains waiting for you to step inside, close your eyes, and become the final component in an ancient design that never stopped working.